Good evening, Priya and Aarush. We're going to be talking about Aarush's journey today, summer tutoring. Looks like you're connected and you're muted, but let me know if you can see me or hear me.
I can. Something is happening. Do you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Awesome. That sounds good. Some kind of weird. Okay. If you don't hear me, let me know. I'll probably go without the camera. I'm trying to switch on the camera, and probably that's what is causing the disruption.
It's better with the camera, but if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, right? So you only can do what you can do.
I think it's the network. Yeah, I think it's the network. It's kind of, if I'm putting it on, it's kind of reducing the volume, Kevin. Give me
Okay,
one
sure.
sec. Let me try. I'm gonna try one last time and then, or else we'll skip. How are you doing? In between your classes, I hope you got a chance to get something for
Oh my
dinner. Looks
gosh.
like you have pretty
Yeah.
back to backs in the evening.
I Yesterday was even crazier because I had like four sessions after teaching all day. I was supposed to plan, but then a teacher was missing, so I had to do English, math, science, history, art, and PE. And then I came home and I had four sessions
Uh
back to
oh.
back. So, but I appreciate your flexibility, and I know I totally understand. I got your messages about work, and so yeah, that
Yeah, I was between projects. I was kind of interviewing, and sometimes you know how the interview schedules get on the fly.
yeah,
Yeah, so I
yes,
did pick up a project, but it's still short term, so I'm kind of continuing to interview.
okay,
So a little
okay.
bit of messed up schedules, unpredictable. So apologies on that side.
Well, yeah, and you're also feeding your family, right? So it's called supporting your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Well, we won't spend a lot of time because I know it's late over there in Texas. Um, so I thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's going to help um, others, and I hope you know I'm going to post this, and I hope that's still okay with you. Um, and what I will do is we can save any. We'll talk about the tutoring format itself afterwards,
Okay.
and because I think some of the other parents were asking questions about that, and they were also saying, how they felt about the July group versus the June group. How we had it a little differently in June, and so I've heard Deepthi talk about that, and also Mrs. Shaw as well. So, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about that as well, and we'll save that for the end. So is it okay if I can just ask you, both of you, some questions? And hopefully Arush is there. Yeah, is he also present with you? Okay, I can't hear anything. It could be your computer is frozen.
I can hear you now. I don't know if you
Oh,
can hear me or not.
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome. Something happened on the fly and I couldn't hear you and it froze. So what I was saying is Arush couldn't make it. Again, from between yesterday and today, we have been having all back to school activities and things like that. So he came back and he just crashed. He couldn't stay awake until now.
Oh.
So but I think I have his inputs. I can cover it and
Okay. Great.
I
Okay.
can probably
That sounds good. Um, all right. So I wanted to ask you, what was really
relay the
going?
message.
Yeah, I heard you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, okay. So I wanted to ask, um, so what was going on when you first heard about the tutoring that you wanted help with? Why was it that you were looking for help for Arush?
Okay. To be very frank, he's pretty much a self-sufficient kid. We have really not helped
Yeah.
him with any of his subjects so far.
Oh,
But getting into, eighth grade, I did see that he was kind of going up and down on his grades, specifically for ILA. And so I felt like probably he needs some foundation in terms of, different activities of how our flow and the curriculum is for ILA as it's kind of getting more and more complex and deep, right? From the subject level standpoint.
right.
And that's where I felt like, okay, giving him that guidance from an expert like you would be really helpful. And he has been really giving me awesome feedback. Actually, he feels much confident, is what I've heard so far. So I
Yeah.
think he likes your teaching method and he understands your teaching well. That's the key that I was
Yeah.
definitely looking for. That he understands uh, your teaching pattern and he is able to connect with the subject well through your method. So from that part, I think I'm not worried. Yeah, sure.
Such a pleasure to have in the class. I He's one of my favorite students, just
Thank you.
because I could sense how much he appreciates what we're doing with the other students, and just juggling all these students at the same time, um, and then I'll put him to work, and he works so quickly, and I don't think it's because he can do it in his sleep. necessarily. He's obviously intelligent and very thoughtful, but I think it's because he, like you said, he gets it. He knows what the expectation is, and he just jumps right in. And he did like an entire essay within. I was helping one of the other students, and he just. I said, "When did you do this? Because you missed the last class, right? So when did you do this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I was doing it while you were talking with Bihan. I wasn't even talking with him that long." And but wow, so I'm super happy. I just this is why I went into teaching is for reasons like this. Just um, obviously not everybody's going to be as motivated and as hungry and as appreciative as he is, but he is, and I appreciate that. And why was it important for you to get help? What were you worried about trying to prevent um, as he progressed, as you said, into the more complex grade levels and everything? What were you trying to prevent? Okay, I'm gonna have to pause everything here.
Hey, Kevin, I heard a portion of it and then somehow something
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, so
Oh,
I
no
heard
worries.
until where you kind of mentioned that um, again, I lost a little bit in between, and then I heard about
Oh,
the
no
essay
worries.
that you mentioned, that he was able to give you the essay that probably you were expecting. So in terms of probably what he was writing. So, do you feel like he has been interactive in your classes with you? Again, I like to give privacy to the teachers and the kids to get to that
Yeah.
comfort level. So I usually don't follow the pattern of sitting or listening in on and off and things
Yeah.
like that. I'm pretty much
Well,
open now.
you are
Yes.
more than welcome to. I have all the videos on YouTube and they're private, by the way, so that only
Mhm.
you and the other parents can see them. So, but to answer
Okay.
your question, yes, he was doing such a fabulous job of being engaged. And
Okay.
like I said, what I was saying you might have missed on one of the sessions he had missed, and the very next session, I knew he was behind, but and then he turns up this essay, right?
Mm.
And I asked him, I said, when did you do this? He said, oh, I was doing it while you were working with Vihan or
Mhm.
um, Aarush. I mean, Ariv.
Uh-huh.
And it showed me that he was just taking advantage of, he understood the expectations and
Mm-hmm.
he felt, and I also feel like he was excited. He was
Mm-hmm.
excited to do it, like he was learning. And
Mm-hmm.
I treated him like an intelligent, mature gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do that with students, they love it. And I feel like he felt that respect coming from me to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's when I see students really blossom and really they
Sounds great.
grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just amazing. He had his heart in that.
Yeah,
Um,
he is basically pretty straight up person,
yeah,
but yeah, he's really calm to be very frank. What I've been asking him to do is like when you're attending a class, I'm like obviously he hardly goes to classes, so yours has been the first class after a long time in terms of tutoring. Since he was probably from in elementary, I would say. This was again a new experience for him, um, and obviously we don't get to see how they do in school, right? So I have been constantly guiding him that for any given subject I have been asking him to get into a habit of writing notes in terms of tips, or in terms of the subject that we are picking up in summary,
yeah,
so that when you go back to it you know what exactly you studied, for the revision purposes and things like that. Second thing that I have been requesting him is to be extremely engaged in terms of understanding and asking questions. Definitely
He
not disturb
does.
class.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's great to hear. That's one feedback I really wanted to get from you. So how engaged he is in the class in terms of probing or asking questions or kind of developing those analogies, understanding the analogies as you might be kind of giving them in terms of tips and connecting with them. So that's good to hear.
Well, yeah, because he fought through the technology because I could never see him. His camera never worked, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes his audio didn't work. So he started to chat through the chat
Mhm.
function. And he would, I mean, he wasn't like asking questions every 5 minutes, but it, he was doing it because he really meant those questions. He really had that curiosity.
Awesome.
Um, and he just got it. He just ran with it. Um,
Mm.
and were there, did he share with you any particular um, techniques or tools or strategies that we had used in the class, whether it was working together in a group? I'll give you an example. We have an open session document where everybody has their writing space in kind of like a text
Right.
box,
Mhm.
and we're all working at the same time. And you can see the document just kind of growing and growing as everybody adds into it, but
Uh-huh.
they're adding it to their own writing for their own sake.
Uh-huh.
And that was a play. One of the things we did. We also practiced some reading
Mhm.
comprehension and
Uh-huh.
some problem solving and some think alouds, like what were you thinking when you selected that answer? Let's explain that. Let's examine your reasoning and everything.
Mhm.
So what did he mention any of those specific strategies that he found useful?
Um, Not in deep, but he just
Right.
mentioned in the way that um, he likes the level that you kind of get to initiate
Mm.
any given topic to help understand everything initially, and then based on the task that you give, then again you kind of go to the level of what each kid is and things like that. um, that's where he was kind of mentioning that his way of teaching is something that I get it, so it's
Yeah,
kind of helping me. um,
that's good to
and
hear. I
and
appreciate that feedback.
yeah, and he specifically mentioned about the level, teaching level that he starts from for all of us. It kind of helps us to understand any given topic to begin with and then take it from there. So he mentioned all of that. So I was pretty happy to hear that. Um, the only one thing that he mentioned is in the later part of the training, considering the number of people in the class, he felt like he told me that it was kind of getting a little bit like I was like maybe the connectivity is where he was like feeling the switching between that attention probably with his
Yeah,
flow of work is where the way he explained me was like later on when there were like too many people, I didn't like the gap of hopping, he said, where I was like I felt like I was like picking up something and then I had to pause and then I lose this sometimes the chain of thoughts or conversations that I was having with my teacher. And then I miss that flow sometimes. So too many people
oh,
kind of gives that um, flow
oh,
challenge, is what
yeah.
he mentioned. I see where he's coming from sometimes because it's like if he
I can
has a
understand that. Yeah,
yeah in
I've
his
heard that
mind.
from the other parents. You're right. There was
Okay.
a and it's not the type of thing I'm repeating only because it was one of those things where you
Mhm.
guys came in together as a group and you guys wanted to be a certain price level and
Right.
everything. So
Mhm.
because of the time that I had available and what the things I'm working on, I had um
Right.
to make it structured that way. But
Mhm.
that's the the good feedback also I need to hear as well. And so it's you make mistakes and you try things, but
Absolutely.
we did our best. But also, it's good to hear the feedback from them how they preferred it the way it was before,
Yeah.
with everybody split up. So that's something I definitely won't do exactly the same way, right?
Yeah, but I see the downside. Like it, I think it totally depends on the number, Kevin. I personally feel like because specifically for a subject like ILA,
Mhm.
in my mind, the group always helps. It's actually probing and
Yes.
getting to that discussion level. It helps, and that's a different kind of training too, to work with a team at the same time you're hearing multiple people's thought on a given topic or an essay or things like that, which kind of strikes a conversation which will prep them for group discussion. There's so many things that kind of opens up in the path of
Yes.
having group specifically for a subject like we are dealing with here, right? So in my
Oh,
mind,
yeah, wait a minute. You're saying something that I,
I feel like maybe like
I
even
think
if
it's a
you
good
have.
point. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
see, the way I see it is, to be very frank, yeah, maybe we need to limit it to a certain amount of people that might not really overwhelm kids or not lose their chain of thoughts completely. But I still see group being advantages from the mindset of what I carry. I have been um, mostly on the managerial side for a long time. And even in schools, I've done, placement cells, I've done management entrances and things like that. So I've been through challenges where we have to get into so many group discussions. Frankly, maybe one of the things that you can keep trying on and off with the kids when you have groups is like, okay, pick up a topic and probably have them speak about that topic and probe from each other and counter question and kind of develop that group discussion kind of a flow. um, in that way, at least this specific group, they're pretty familiar with each other. To be very frank, I'm sure they won't hesitate to even have like group discussion, but that flow might help them prep eventually
Yeah,
to go and speak in a group that they're totally not aware of, but still take that conversation smoothly, yet making their powerful and impactful statements, trying to prove their points or their case on a given topic, or the mindset that they carry or perception they carry on that topic. So something that I felt like, okay, as they're maturing into the subject, maybe on and off, you can do as working sessions where you're kind of challenging them with the topic, have them speak, see how they can really do in terms of group discussions, agree, come up with something creative. I have seen you're already doing that, a lot of creative stuff that kind of encourages them to do their work already. So I'm
yeah.
sure you'll come up with something awesome there too. But
Well,
kind of,
there's a Socratic, yeah. Socratic
yeah,
seminar, for example. Um,
uh-huh,
if I were to describe that to you, I wrote that down right now, and
uh-huh.
that's where they can argue,
Mhm.
not yelling, but I mean, in making a case for something and then
Exactly.
shifting those perspectives as they listen to other people.
Yeah.
They're not trying to argue against the other person, but they're trying to
Yeah.
listen to the other person and
Exactly.
trying to strengthen their reasoning and their arguments.
Exactly. That's the key in any group discussion, right?
Yeah,
One side of the coin of it is almost like conflict resolution on the fly, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that kind of preps them to so many things in the broader world eventually where they'll get to. So
absolutely.
just something that I've thought through when I felt like, okay, what is
That's
the
wonderful. Yeah,
the way my mind works is in the given situation, in whichever situation we are in, what are pros, what are cons, right? Having a group, considering if we can balance the number of people, there is a downside to it if we go too many, um, where probably kids might feel like they might not be getting that continuity in terms of what they're learning, and they might feel like, okay, very quickly the next person's turn is coming and I'm not getting the enough thing. But
yeah.
if we balance that, the upside of it is studying together. I have always been a major proponent of that. I have done combined studies with 4 to 6 friends of mine in my
Mm,
schooling times too. um, and it helps a lot. Everybody sees a topic with a fresh pair of eyes, and we get to learn so
yeah,
much when we combine those thoughts always, and you learn faster. At least I learn faster. Every kid is not like
Yeah.
that. I'm trying to
Well,
understand
yeah.
how
But you
Arush
also
is.
learn, yeah, you
Yeah.
also learn how to work with people that way. And
Oh
really
yeah.
because you're focused on something in common
Yeah.
and you're not even thinking about, well, should I share? It's everybody together.
Yep.
So I think you learn great.
So coming back to the curriculum and going into ninth grade,
Yeah,
the level of expertise that they need to build in ILA. Again, as I mentioned, my concentration would be again the same, making sure that his foundations are getting stronger and stronger in the subject. Um,
yeah,
his feeling towards ILA being his confidence, not being his weakness, is the most important thing for me.
yeah.
um,
Okay.
because I have seen that, right? Okay, out of my subjects, I'm a little nervous about ILA. The grades are kind of always going, fluctuating on ILA. And when I ask you, why do you think that's happening? Do you know where exactly you need help, or do you lack? The kind of responses I got is, I don't know. So for him to be able to identify what is he lacking and how he can bridge that gap to get that fluctuating part of it. I'm like, even if he identifies, okay, this is the area where I feel like I'm always getting impacted, because of which my grades are going down. For him to even identify, that's a win to me, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because that is where it starts. For you to identify the problem, once you do that, then you
Yes.
work towards it. So that is the key. And considering ninth grade, we cannot have him fluctuating with grades anymore. We don't get that option anymore. Unfortunately, this is the average that he'll pick up for his college grading. So um and that's where I'm like, okay, he's been like, I'm getting 90s, 95s, it's fine. But now it's like, I'm seeing the challenge, everybody's getting hundreds. That is why Frisco ISD is so
Yeah,
challenging.
yeah. And
Yeah.
how I look at that, my philosophy is,
Mm,
the military the way that the US military trains is the best in the world. They train for more difficult situations than they will ever encounter.
right.
And so I try to teach the students to organize their thoughts. So when they're reading something, and by the way, the four magic questions that I teach, I hardly ever share this outside of tutoring. Um, what does a text say? What does it not say?
Hmm.
How does it say it? And finally, what does it all mean? So if you analyze those four questions, you're left with what is the denotation? What is the surface level meaning? Okay,
Uh-huh.
what does it not say? What is the inference? What do I have to
Uh-huh.
figure out? What is my critical thinking about this?
Uh-huh.
How does it say it? Now I can talk about literary devices. I can talk about using the terminology from the subject matter, the
Uh-huh.
foreshadowing, symbolism, conflict, all these things. And then
Uh,
finally, what does it all mean? So putting it all together. So that is one tool that I give to students. Um, so what I'm getting at, and you were saying about 95% you're okay with, but you're seeing 100%. Well, I, so my
um,
thinking is we prepare him to be the best. And how we do
exactly.
that, we strengthen that foundation, create it's
Yeah.
a pyramid. It's like here's the foundation. Now here's some more
Yeah.
advanced stuff. Once we master more advanced, more
Hmm.
advanced, more advanced. And then they're beyond because that's what I was doing in college is I was so beyond and that my paper was nominated for the best paper in the university.
Awesome.
Um, but you see that what did that come from? It came from that hunger, that curiosity, that
Mm.
deep thinking, that critical thinking. Um, eh, so I became a student of that, and so anyway, that to answer your question about grades, because think about it. even when the students earn straight A's in high school, no
Mhm.
guarantee that when they get to Cornell or Brown, that they're going to excel there because now suddenly they're in an environment. The bad news is colleges are inflating grades. That's a fairly newer trend because things are getting so competitive that
Yeah,
every college is now a brand. Okay.
yeah.
However, you pinpointed the issue early in our call when you said that the workplace, the groups, the empathy, the being able to rise to the top of your field to be effective, it's going to come naturally to the students who they know how to listen, speak, read, and write at the highest level.
Exactly. And there are a couple of key things that I look at, and maybe um, you might be already doing that, but maybe you can evaluate that for Arush too, for me eventually. The thing is, like, for example, I'll just take a simple. So for anything, any task, or even let's say something that you might have given him to write on, there'll be three aspects, right? One, um, his willingness to go extra mile to um, really explore that topic properly. That's the research state of it, right? Analysis of the topic. Then trying to translate that into a paragraph or a summary which is impactful, which is concise, but it's kind of giving the key of the exact view of what is expected off of that topic. I think that's so the
Oh,
subject in the um, so when he's speaking or when he's writing, for me, most important is the subject should be accurate, it should be concise, and it's actually giving the exact story to whoever that's listening to it, who is listening to it. So that's one level of what his perception should be. Second thing would be, if he's speaking, he needs to understand his how should I say that, um, invigilator, or whoever is asking that question, or if he's having a discussion, whoever his opponents are, or discussion mates are, whoever,
yeah.
having the ability to understand their side of the view,
Yes.
and then answering them based on what will help them understand on the individual front. Because when you are actually trying to convince someone, first you need to listen and understand where they're coming from. So taking that moment, so building that appetite of trying to understand where a person is coming from and answering them the right way, I feel like these are some very key important things, Kevin, and I'm sure you know that pretty much. Because when these kids are like studying, they're studying on subjects, um, but slowly they're going out in the world. I really want Arush to go participate in group discussions or debates or whatever, or things like that, because I've always felt that that made me confident, that made me a good listener, that made me a real good learner. But at the same time, I have my own weaknesses. I told you before, I think that I'm extremely long-winded, and I'm constantly working on that. But we all work on something, but that's where I want to, really make sure that he's like considering these aspects from now itself. I remember Arush in going into elementary to middle, Kevin, if if he would be asked some questions or something that he's writing as answers in his assignment, I would always see one word to two word answers, and I would be like, um and those one word to two words would be exactly what the answer or the question is asking, but it's just one word or two word
Yeah.
answers. I'm seeing that get a better and better. I'm just telling you that how kids mature and these things. So from one word to two words, he now, later on I saw one statement, and then I'm like seeing, okay, two statements, but he's still concise, and I still see that as a pro, because I know that's a con for me. I'm pretty long-winded. It's good to be concise, but if he's being concise, he needs to be exactly putting the right subject or of answer, which means if you are just writing two statements, two statements have to be solid, right?
Yeah. 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 I think you're so right. But that's kind of level where now you can write a dissertation eventually,
Okay.
because to do that you have to create original thoughts, but based upon the truth, the obvious truths that are there, right? So if you're talking about um, human motivation, right? You
Right.
have to do your research so that you understand, like incentives. I study incentives, right? A lot of
Mm,
people don't understand incentives at all. They so again, I had to go to a researcher in Oregon and
mm,
ask him directly, what is the truth about this? And he explained to me, the studies they did with intrinsic motivation and rewards and extrinsic motivation, there was a misunderstanding of the studies because they read the abstract, they didn't read the actual study, and the studies themselves were flawed because
uh-huh.
they were giving math problems to college students that already wanted to do math. So when they
Right.
gave them rewards, their motivation went down.
Exactly. And that's where, like, even for kids, I wouldn't say just kids, even for us, if we go and learn something brand new, our expectations would be on a certain level. But we miss the point that if we don't have the foundations right, then obviously we won't get to where we're getting. So, for example, and you can tell me how, I would want you to keep evaluating Arush and give me feedback in terms of if you teach him something or ask him to think something, how well is he uh, analyzing that thought? How well is he translating his thoughts into speech or written, into a written form, right? So is he able to really articulate that in a manner that's acceptable to a good level, or what all? So that those things are really important for me. And obviously I mentioned, for him to articulate things of what's going on in his mind, first he needs to do a little bit of a groundwork on what that topic is. If he doesn't know about the topic, obviously he can't speak about the topic. So that's something he needs to build in terms of curiosity too. Similarly, when it comes to the curriculum of ninth grade, he needs to understand is what each topic is in ILA for ninth grade, to build the foundation in that topic first, so that when a question pertaining to that topic comes, he exactly knows what the examiner is looking for, or what
Yeah.
exactly is expected. Because it's not just the exam, it's basically him building his foundation to get to a better state
Yeah.
in that subject, right? Yeah. I think I
I
spoke
think,
a lot. I'm
yeah,
sorry, but
yeah, and speaking is a big part of that. The other thing you mentioned, I'm curious, I'm going to ask you about that third
okay.
level you're talking about. But before, one of the ways I help students to get more concise is actually what I use to understand and get them writing more clearly, because
Okay.
that's the first stage, I think. So I will read their paragraph and I'll read it out loud so they can hear it. And then I will ask them, okay, Arush, what are you trying to say here? What are
Mm,
you trying to say in this paragraph? Well, I'm trying to say that wasn't sure that he wanted to live because he had given up on life. Wow. So when students give me their response,
mm.
it's always concise because they're not trying to write. So
Oh.
what I learned from my mentor in college, because I worked for her, I was a research assistant in um, the British literature class, and
Mhm.
we worked with the Cambridge bibliography of English literature. That
Uh-huh.
we were part of that team from Cambridge. Um, is she would ask me that same question, and so what I learned from her was, is everything you said, like, you understand the topic, you've researched it, your thoughts are not simplistic, they are complex as the subject matter is complex.
Mm,
However, you should be able to express that very clearly. Because if you cannot express something clearly and concisely, you don't understand it.
Right.
So when I ask students the question, what do you mean here? I'm also teaching them to think, because when they have to answer that question, they ask themselves that I'm sure part of the brain is saying, yeah, do I know this? What do I know? And when they spit it out, I know from when I was a student, I would not often understand the subject till after I wrote the paper.
Okay. Mm.
And which is scary because when that happens, you're like, wait a minute, I still got an A on this paper. Like,
Mm.
uh, is something wrong with the teacher or something wrong with me? And now I get it. But, you know, anyway, what was that third thing you were saying? So the three levels, you got to be able to get an accurate view of the subject, and you need to be able to understand others' point of view.
Yeah, and again, translation of your thoughts into, written form.
Oh, right.
Um,
Got it.
and that should again be concise and impactful. I'm like to the point again for, but at the same time trying to cover the basis of what's really needed there, right? That's an art. I feel like it's very difficult for everyone to get there. Um,
It is an art, but the key point, it's from the foundation. Now, I'm going to share with you something. I know
mm,
you have more to say, but I think this is going to blow your mind. Uh, so Horatio Sanchez, Dr. Sanchez, has written a book called Education Revolution.
uh-huh.
He's coupling brain science with learning
Okay.
theory.
Mm,
So one of the things he said in the book was when you give kids the foundation
mm-hmm,
of a given subject matter and they can learn it to the point of automaticity, right? So they're
mm,
able to learn it and recite it without thinking. So it takes time, of course. It takes drills.
uh-huh.
Um, not only is higher level and critical thinking possible, it's inevitable.
Mm,
Now, think about that for a second. Schools are trying to teach critical thinking, but because they're not allowing the foundation, they're not strengthening the foundation. Oh, we learned that in the third grade. Okay, now you look at standards for first graders, they are scary. They're ridiculous how complex they are. We need to build that foundation strong enough. And
mm,
this is part of my tutoring. I'm not giving them anything that they haven't heard before. I'm not to some degree because I'm an author. I'm published also. So I know some tricks and I know some behind the scenes things. But for the most part, I'm giving them review and I'm repurposing it. I'm explaining this is why your thesis has to have this. This is why you wait until the end to revise your introduction. Don't make a big deal about your introduction until you've written the whole paper. Then you
right.
can understand how to introduce the topic properly. And then everything falls into place and makes sense for them when you put it all together um, and show them how it works, how it really works. Because in
Mm.
school, they're getting a little piece here, a little piece there, a little piece here, a little piece
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Here, we're putting it all together.
Right. And I think he is pretty happy. He sounds happy because I can see, when kids understand something, they get excited about it. So I see
Yeah.
that in him. So that's definitely making me happy. And I have to be
And I'll
honest, every
continue to
time
teach.
uh go ahead.
I'll continue to teach him like I do with Vihan. I give him stuff I only give to adults sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
I have adult workshops that I've
Uh-huh.
done for
Uh-huh.
writing, and so with Aarush as well. I will
Mm-hmm.
I will I will challenge him with I'll give him 11th grade stuff if he can handle it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that's what I think he likes because I treat him like he deserves. I
Mm-hmm.
treat every student like they deserve.
Uh-huh.
But, so I'm going to pull you up. It's zone of proximal development, which
Mm-hmm.
is the productive struggle, which is, oh man, this hurts. how do I do this? How do I write this? That's when they grow,
Right.
when they struggle and they stretch themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I,
Yeah.
I can talk all day as well. Um,
I guess probably I felt exactly the same statement that you just spoke. I was like, I was talking a lot too, kind of took away most of the time. But I have to admit, every time I talk to you, I feel like, okay, I'm kind of relaying my thoughts to you, and kind of I feel like you try to implement some of those things for the kids, um,
yes,
which I
I'm
really
taking a
really
lot of
appreciate.
notes.
Yep,
Taking a lot of
I
notes.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I try to put the practical thoughts in front of you, looking and trying to be a little futuristic for these kids as well, Kevin. And frankly, you do the magic. I'm just giving you the thoughts of what comes into my mind, and you're doing already an awesome job with that. So, um,
Thank you.
please do let me know. Keep evaluating Arush at the levels that I mentioned. Those are key foundational, pillars that I feel like, again, trying to be curious about a topic, trying to make sure you research on that topic, understand what it is, if it's a topic or a subject, or within the subject, like for ILA, it could be whatever the lessons that we have. Curious about what that is, how what that topic is, how do I implement it in the real life in terms of statements or paragraphs or whatever. That curiosity, I need him to grow that for himself. I need him
Yeah,
to think through, um, and put those thoughts into proper speech and proper written form, and things like that. I feel like that's something that I'm really looking forward to. And Like, I'll give you one example. In middle school, he wrote his application for NJHS. At that time, he didn't have a lot of volunteer hours and things like that, so he didn't have much. But a lot of people write in terms of how they really reflect, because he does a lot of activities, and they learn how to kind of you know modify those activities into the pillars that NJHS needs or whatever needs. And people wrote all of that and they were all selected, but for him, he was like, no, I cannot write it this way because it's kind of reflecting something else that I did not do, so I'm not going to do that. So he is very specific about, okay, being perfect in terms of writing. It's like, okay, I want to say only what I know this means. So kind of writing it in a way which kind of, you know for him to map what he did also falls under certain pillars, if they do realistically. Not that we want to just go ahead and manipulate and write something which fits, but something like that. So when I had reasoning with him, saying, I spoke to a lot of people and they're writing in this way, and you did the same activities, why don't you? He would be like, in my mind, I don't think it fits perfectly in here. This must be something else, and I don't think I've done that. So he wouldn't write it, and he didn't get in. So I was like talking to him the other day. It's like, now again, in high school you have honor society and then there'll be application. So last time, you get an invitation, right? So he got an invitation, but the way he filled the form was not enough or whatever, that he didn't get in. So I was like talking to him, saying, do research, try to understand what's needed to, and try to understand how you can actually map what you have done versus what those pillars need to be able to qualify for that, and then put in an application to get selected and things like that. So these are some small activities that happen right in our day-to-day lives, that trying to understand and trying to write, because eventually that will be what he'll be doing in the college too, writing essays and stuff, to put his thoughts, his futuristic goals into into a written form, which would be
yeah,
read by someone out there, and would leave an impression for him to get selected into a college or something like that. So I think that's the ability that he needs to grow into eventually.
yeah. As he builds that skill, he can also write down
Yeah.
that experience. I would write down an experience because I'm helping a lot of students right now with their college
Mhm.
essay.
Ah,
Um,
okay. Awesome.
and when you explain to them who you are and why it matters. Um, that's an important quality to have. The intellectual honesty and academic honesty is
Absolutely.
if he can tell a story that, look, my honesty has cost me opportunities.
Yeah.
Uh, but because my mom taught me these three pillars, um, I I don't settle for that. I become better,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to wing it. I'm not going to fake it. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do my research. I'm going to understand the other point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and these are my thoughts translated
Perfect. So that's where
concisely.
you went to exactly the right point. So that is what he needs to build, that okay, if you want to really go through that each step of the process perfectly, so what it takes is the root of the whole flow, which is first trying to uh, get a head start on what do you really need for that, bottom line. It could be an application, it could be a debate, it could be a subject, it could be anything. So your root cause is to first identify, understand, and be curious about it, learn as much as you can, so you're developing all the background you need, all the weapons you need to go fight the battle, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
So in terms of knowledge, in terms of practicing, in terms of whatever it takes. So I think that's the key that he needs to develop for in any given thing. Okay, how do I do that to be able to grab all that research that I need and things like that.
And I would say I've done a lot of research on this.
Mm.
They don't need to master all three of these to get
Right.
into a top college. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
explain why. What they need to demonstrate, um, I want to keep my train of thought here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
The These are important things that are going to help him to grow, these
Mm-hmm.
three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
But even if he is not, um, how shall I say? So students who, they are very strong academically and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they built up some skill and it seems like it comes easy to them, but for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
um, the colleges are not looking for that. They want you to be able to handle the
Mm-hmm.
workload when you arrive at college, and that's why they have a certain range, acceptable range, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, But beyond that, what they're really looking for is leaders. I think Aarush would fit in a top college because his curiosity, his honesty, that is a value that is deep in his bones.
It is.
That's who he is. That's who he is. And
Agreed.
so I've done a lot of research through the Ivy League Challenge, and I've been getting a
Mm.
lot of resources. And the more I look, and I got into the top college out of high school, the number one college in the nation out of high school.
Awesome.
But I did not fall into that perfection trap, which
Uh-huh.
is I have to be on paper, my transcript has to be at this level, this level, this
Uh-huh.
level, because you can be a robot
Yeah,
without
and
any
there's so
humanity.
many channels that are out there where they kind of, I don't know how to say it, they kind of help you put a good essay which kind of gets good visibility. But the bottom
Mhm.
line is, what I want Arush to do is, when you're prepping for an essay, I want him to learn about himself, what he really likes, what he really wants to do, what he really wants to project, what version he wants to project in there. Uh, so for that, uh, I understand many kids going into high school, they're still figuring it out. But that figuring it out, if you can do it in right time, actually gives you an edge, is what I feel when your applications are put in place. Because if you understand, and when you start trying to understand, obviously it'll be all ambiguous, right? Kids can't really be that strong. there are a lot of kids that I feel like, okay, they are like always sure short in terms of what they really want to do, but not most of us kind of keep figuring out as we keep growing into,
Yeah.
elementary to high, sometimes high to even college, and people change and switch what they're doing. So the thing is, whatever he's exploring, he should explore with such a level of curiosity that he knows what is it for me or not, or whatever it is, right? So, because if he figures it out, then he'll be able to really put that most honest foot in front and also articulate it in a way that his
Yes.
passion is kind of reflecting in there, in a way, I would say.
Yeah, I feel my parents did the same thing for me. My parents never asked me to write anything. They never asked me to get involved with music or to
Mm,
publish or to be on Valley Public Radio
mm,
or do any of this kind of stuff that I do. I do a lot of stuff in the arts and
mm,
um but I found my passion. I was alone. I was home alone a lot, right? So I
mm.
didn't get into trouble that much. I mean, I did, but to me, I was writing stuff. Like I want to write a song. I want to write a poem. I want to write a play. And I did all that kind of stuff. And it's, yeah. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And I think that's going to come across to other people. And I think he'll make a huge contribution because it's his character will speak to other people, where
Mhm.
whatever he does, he's going to make an impact. Now, I know sometimes as parents we don't want to hear that. We want to hear, well, okay, I want him to select a good career. So, you know, because that's what what our whole family, we've always done that. And my family
Mhm.
too. A lot of doctors on both sides
Mhm.
and business people and everything. Um, but and I turned out to be a teacher, but I make doctors.
Very well
It's
said.
right. So
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't make a ton of money, but I chose a field I can retire in. I want to be a little old man. My first teacher that I can remember in my life was 85 years old. I think she was born in 1880. My first
Mhm.
teacher,
Uh-huh.
1880. And so my image of being a teacher is I can be very old and very frail, and I can still be teaching somebody something.
Very well said. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, that comes from passion, given. And
mhm,
if you love what you're doing, obviously you'll continue to enjoy it for a long time, and that'll also keep you at peace. Yeah,
mhm.
money is
So,
definitely an important factor, but otherwise,
yeah,
um,
we have to have enough and good
yeah,
benefits and everything.
yeah,
Can
yeah.
you, what would you say to any parents that are unsure? They've never tried group tutoring. We're talking about small groups, right? Small, manageable groups. What would you
Mm.
say to them? I think you kind of said it before about the benefits, but if somebody specifically came to you and said, "Hey, I don't know, should I try like one-on-one tutoring?" Or if they're
I
unsure if it's going to
would.
work.
I think I'm 100% sure about that. I would suggest otherwise. Again, I'd be pretty honest. It totally
Mhm.
sometimes depends on subject and the kid. Um,
Yeah,
but to me, I feel like, again, I told you, I have been a group study person whole of my life. I love that, and I have seen a lot of advantages through it. So I'm a big proponent of that. But again, limiting it based on how much kid is able to handle, um, the number in terms of group is, it would be there. Like, if based on how much time we have, the window for tutoring, 30 minutes 2 kids, 30 minutes 3 kids, to go, not going way beyond where kids might not feel and flow. But otherwise, I'm a great proponent of group. I would prefer group because I feel like for it kind of gives a lot of knowledge, and fast learning, kind of, in a
yeah,
way. I feel like,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. Anything
What are
else
you
you want?
planning of in terms of structure for our next? season?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're asking that. So I would say I have some windows, whether it's going to be, and I'll show you.
Windows in terms of timings for.